Welcome to the Awakening Exchange podcast, hosted by Stephen Matthew Clark. Join us as we explore stories of transformation, growth, and redemption within the justice system. Through insightful conversations with experts and individuals who have overcome adversity, we'll uncover the potential for change and the power of education, programming, and support. Get ready to dive into a world of second chances and inspiring journeys. This is the Awakening Exchange podcast, transforming from the inside out.
Ladies and gentlemen, how are you? Stephen Matthew Clark here, and excited to be on the show this evening. We have a very special guest with us tonight, Mr. Kyle Robinson. Mr. Kyle Robinson had spent years in the system of mass incarceration, only to change and turn his life around. Now he's back out in society doing wonderful and positive things. We are grateful to have him on the show. And without further ado, Mr. Kyle Robinson, ladies and gentlemen. Kyle, welcome.
Hey, thanks, Stephen. Thanks for having me on. It's great to see you. It always is.
It's great to see you, my dear friend, as well. I think what would be a good starting point, maybe just introduce yourself, maybe where your feet are on the ground. What's inspiring you in this moment?
Thanks. My feet are on a chair, a comfortable chair where I can wiggle and move and be as grounded as I want to. I'm in Portland, Oregon. I relocated like 3 or 4 days after or before Thanksgiving, right before my birthday. So I met a really awesome friend through networking here in Portland, and I'm using her place because it's comfy and quiet. Where I live, it's like there's a lot of traffic that passes by, and it's all day out of. So I'm over here to friends in Portland, and starting to feel grounded.
Nice. I'm happy to hear that. Kyle, I'd like to talk a little bit about maybe if you could just share with the audience, you had spent some time in the system of mass incarceration, maybe just sharing a little bit about, I don't want to go back and relive that, but maybe how many years you spent in the system of mass incarceration and maybe some of the changes that have occurred for you, because what happens a lot of times is this audience, the audience that listens to these calls, we're viewed as monsters. We're viewed by the worst choice we've ever made. And people don't see our ability to change, and they don't see our ability to change the narrative. So what I'd like to invite you, maybe if you could just share the time that you spent in the system, and what was that moment of awakening for you? What changed in your consciousness that is allowing you to be successful in society today?
I went to prison when I was 16, and I got out a couple of months before my 21st birthday. It was a 5-year sentence. There was no transformation in prison, to be honest with you. The transformation came, the first transformation that I noticed in a positive direction came maybe 6 years ago, roughly 6 years ago. Before that, I was really on autopilot. I was so traumatized at multiple points and had never processed it. Now, I'd never been given the tools or to process it, and I had never had it modeled for me. So when I explored therapy for the first time, or to be honest, when I could afford some therapy for the first time, I connected with someone who began to help me build those tools, put them in my toolbox. And that made the change that I can see in my life as far as relationships, friendships, general level of happiness and optimism. That all came after getting these tools that I didn't get, in childhood, didn't get in prison, and certainly didn't get in early reentry. I hope that.
Yeah. So you did your time. You went in at 16 years old. You spent some time in the system of mass incarceration. If I hear you correctly, it sounds like what you're saying. Those tools to transform weren't provided to you when you were in. Instead, you got out dealing with that backpat, the trauma, the pain, the dysfunction you had been through in your life. And it wasn't until you found therapy on your own that you had some kind of awakening.
Absolutely, absolutely correct. Um, I love how you reflect back to me what I said. You active listening was one of the first tools that I put in my toolbox. I occasionally still pull it out today. Some days I don't. But yeah, that was generally the story of my life. There was a pattern of bumping my head against the wall and just not knowing how to recover. So when I get out at 21, I've never been an adult in the free world. I don't have the same history of actions or challenges that people normally face at certain intervals in their life. I had my own, and yeah, it was a shame, or it is a shame. I find it that much of my reentry was wasted. Not wasted, but I just say I wish I had had the tools sooner, which is why I'm following some projects like yours that are helping people to get them inside of the prison, because I really think that the culture can change such that people who go to prison actually come out better.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the gifts that, just to have a raw conversation with you a little bit, when I first got here to the main state prison, there was a lot of opportunities that were lacking and missing. And I can relate when you're saying you're like, yeah, the rehabilitation didn't happen. And because I saw mass amounts of people coming through the system and leaving with no tools because there was no tools here at the time. And really what it took was a change in leadership here at the prison, as far as the commissioner becoming the warden and then becoming the commissioner, the warden who was the deputy warden of programs becoming the warden. And now there's been huge changes happen, and I see people transforming their lives all around me, which is amazing. But I can also reflect back and remember times where people were leaving and they were being pushed into homeless shelters. There was no work being done to support them, even to get into a reentry house, which there wasn't any in Maine back then. So now there's been a huge shift in consciousness where there's more focus on these changes happening. And I like what you said, and I appreciate the fact that you follow the awakening and the work that we're doing. How has that work helped you?
Internally, it has been so inspirational. I mean, I'm so excited to be here doing this podcast, because I know better than most just how much is riding on projects like yours. Not to just change the system, but to tell the truth, to actually explain that you are human beings. It's hard to, in a conversation with you or I or anyone, deny their humanity. When there's a them or an other, when we're criminals, when we're crystallized in that moment of what we did last, it's such a helpless and powerless situation to not be able to narrate your own story. So when I find people like yourself, and honestly, there's not a lot of people like yourself. There's a lot who are trying and working in different ways, but I think what your project does is just goes above and beyond in changing people's minds about who's in there. If you believe that, unless you believe, death penalty for every crime or something, odd like that, you have to reconcile for the fact that 90% of people incarcerated are coming back home one day. You got to think about who you want home. And there's the me that's sitting
That's
here
right.
talking to you, and there's the me before. I think that projects that yourself. And I just got to say it, Stephen. Randy Liberty, you can't say enough about the courage, the boldness, and the clarity with which he has set the message. I believe it was on your show when I first heard him. That's the way that we need to start thinking, and it's not popular, but you actually the science is out now. So I know I've opened up 3 or 4 boxes today. I don't want to run away with one, but I hope that people will see me and think, okay, he's an example. Do you think I should be in prison today? Do you think I need another 3 or 4 decades to? No, people change. How
That's
do we
right.
inspire?
You're absolutely right. People do change, but we need that. You know, Kirk Llewellyn is a behaviorist and a psychologist, and what he said was behavior is a function of the person and then the environment that they're in, right? So our behaviors adjust to the environment that we are in. So an example of that, we go to war, right? So our behavior is, it might be to carry a gun, it may be to defend ourselves, it might be to kill somebody, unfortunately, because we're in war. Our behavior is adjusting to meet that environment. You come into prisons, if the environment's horrible, your behavior changes to meet that environment. And what somebody like Randy Liberty has done and Matthew Magnuson, what these gentlemen have done is they've helped support a change in the environment where we can actually grow and be better human beings. So that's true for people on the outside too. You might live in an abusive home where your husband's beating you or your wife is beating you, either or, it can go both ways. Or you might live in a place where you're homeless and you're in a homeless shelter. You have to adapt to your environment. You have to adapt to fit in. And behaviors are so funky. It's like, I see it all around me. I see it like there's different pods in here, right? So you have an honor pod all the way down to a pod that's not an honor pod. Guys will adjust to the pod that they live in and they will act a certain way and change it up. The challenge, and you have to be very resilient and you have to be aware of it, is really maintaining your dignity and maintaining your values in any environment that you're in, if that makes sense.
Consistency is it's one of the most essential keys of leadership. When people see you every day, I'm sure there's people that came in after you and were watching you, and some that were there before who's he's not going to do shit. He's faking it to make it. He's trying to game his way out.
That's right.
When you do it day after day after day, eventually people will buy in to what you're doing, and they will come to recognize the changed person you are based on the changed behaviors. And
That's
I think,
right.
as you said, people in prison play a huge responsibility in overturning a very negative, nasty, violent culture that often mirrors, that nearly mirrors the environment that they came from. I'm sure it's a little worse, but that's not something that we can expect society to run in and do. It's not something society could do if they put unlimited resources in it. It takes transformation at the individual level, and then building from there towards the community.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It takes building resources within, but it takes a great deal of support. I was just having this conversation with somebody the other day. It's like, I can do all this work on my own and I can put in forth the effort, but if there's not other people joining in and supporting the efforts, and there's not other people believing in the work, it's just me doing the work. So it takes time. It takes consistency. I think it also takes resiliency. So you have to be resilient because there's a lot of, I think you can probably attest to this, there's a lot of roadblocks that are always thrown in the way time and time again. So we really have to be, even when you get out of prison, you're going to face a lot of challenges, a lot of obstacles that people throw in your path because either A, they don't want to see you succeed, or B, there's a sense of there's a sense of they don't see your humanity.
You're right. There's for people who don't have exposure to the system, they're coming at it from such a different mindset that honestly, I tend to struggle to relate to people. And I get it.
Mhm.
I get to thinking that they're the minority, and that my way of thinking is just is the common, and that's not the case. And as much as I hate to admit it, that applies to me as well. Before I ever went to prison, I had no reason to care about people in there. Who the hell, and if I did, it would have been met with some callous trope, some dismissal. I don't do the crime if you can't do the time. Lock them up.
That's
throw
right.
away the
That's
key.
right.
This
That's
very
right.
archaic thinking that doesn't take into account what we know today about human development.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And I think that's still one of the challenges of our system, some of the catching up that we need to do. There's not just an action that occurs, there's always a why of the behavior. There's always a why. There's usually not just an immediate thing that takes place, it's usually a buildup. And usually it starts with adverse childhood experiences. It starts with the trauma. We just had Don Cabarello on the show. And it's so true. Usually it starts with the trauma that somebody's been through. And then there's a buildup of pain and dysfunction in the person's life, usually mental health issues that turn into substance abuse issues, right? People treat their depression, they treat their anxiety, they treat feeling really sad with mind altering chemicals. And then there's a whole new challenge that takes place. There's a whole new 700-pound gorilla in the room that needs to be faced. But I love what you said. I really think that we have to pull it back and we have to see each other's humanity. And in doing that, we can figure out the why. Does that make sense?
It makes all the sense. It more than sense. It touches me because I feel like I've kind of been a bit of a robot for part of the interview, and I haven't really talked about what made me feel it in here. I was sharing with a friend the other night who had asked me about my transformation, or had asked me about a certain period in my life where that transformation occurred. And I have to note that it was marked at the point when I developed a relationship with somebody, a very different type of relationship than I had ever experienced before. But in short, it was the first time someone made me believe that I was worthy of love and loved. Before that, I just didn't believe that I was worthy of good things. Relationships were much more tense. Every relationship that I saw around me looked predatorial. It looked like nobody was happy. And once I started to feel love,
wow,
I looked in the mirror different. I walked different. I wanted to share something with people, So I recognizing that there is a recipe for it is a big part of my growth in my life since then.
absolutely and positively. So if I hear you and hear what you're saying, it seems like seeing your own self-worth through somebody else's approval or somebody else's unconditional positive regard. And once you have that ability to see your own humanity, you're able to function in a different place and almost come out. It's like that liminal phase, like you're unsure of yourself, unsure of your abilities, but you have that moment of reflection thanks to somebody that you find. That's usually what love is, right? Somebody that really allows you that space to open up and grow. You found that person gave you that ability to make some realizations, self-realizations, and then out of that comes a new
Give me the
Kyle.
tool. Give me the
Yeah.
Out of that, I'm searching for the tools.
You're searching for the tools. Exactly. So you have a new Kyle that's in more of a search. I love that. That's really cool. That's a great way to frame it. That's a great way to think about it. What were when you came out of that moment with that person, what were the things that you were seeking or searching, and what did you find?
I knew that I had to be, I needed to surround myself with people who I trusted to talk to me. I'm one of those people that used to always think I'm the smartest person in the room. I didn't say it, I didn't behave like it because I wasn't that big, but I thought like it. And people around me didn't necessarily reflect that I was wrong. But for a project as big as like restructuring my life, something that's going to take years and be progressively realized, I knew that I needed someone who could give me some emotional insights. I knew that all of this was closed off. And I ended up finding someone who introduced me to the concept of trauma and allowed me to see that I was basically a walking robot, not feeling anything, and hadn't been feeling anything since childhood. I had been so distanced from caring for other people or feeling for other people because I couldn't feel myself. And once I was able to get therapeutic self insights, then I was able to, or I guess this is where I'm at in the process, learning to express that to you and to share and to do so vulnerably, trusting, with trust, and unapologetically.
Right. And I think that's beautifully said, my friend. It's really true. I was just having this conversation with a very dear friend of mine, and what we were talking about is the same thing. You have Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And you have Maslow's hierarchy of needs that talks about our physiological needs. Our physiological needs are in space and in place. So you have everything that you need. But if you don't have that psychological safety in place, if you don't feel belonging, if you don't feel the ability to really open up and share what's in your heart, in your consciousness with somebody, you really can't move up. And why I say that is simply this, because you're stuck in a place where if you don't have psychological safety, you can't trust anybody to truly build social needs or esteem needs. And if you self-actualize, you're not truly self-actualizing in humanity as somebody that's giving back. It's the ego that's self-actualizing, which may never allow you to self-transcend to go back to help other people, right?
Right.
So,
right.
yeah, with that being said, I just want to kind of circle back. Do you feel that the space that you're at right now is a space of self-transcendence or self-actualization?
Stephen, you know how I feel when you use those big words. I'm not. The space that I'm in right now,
So
don't.
let me reframe it. Let me reframe it. Do you feel like you're in a space where your hopes and yeah, don't, I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, please go ahead. I'm messing with you.
You playing. So are you in a space where you feel like your hopes and dreams are coming together? Are you in a space where you feel like you can self-transcend, meaning that you can go back in and pull other people out? You can share what you've learned to help other people? Or are you still building up to both of those things?
Great question. Damn, that was a good question. Because you're gonna make me touch one of my securities or insecurities, which is just general stability, material establishment. It's not something I've ever had. It's not something I was ever prepared to pursue. So I often doubt my ability to help other people. But then every day happens, and I'm on the bus with someone, I'm in the store with someone, I'm on the phone with someone, or connected to someone in a network, somewhat like yours, in which I'm finding ways to give people tools, to share with people the tools
Mhm.
that I'm just now starting to, I don't want to say master, but get very comfortable, flexing. And dude, there's no better feeling than you've got a friendship or a connection with someone who's incarcerated, and you hear the change in them, or you hear the belief in them rise, their confidence rise, and you know that that is in part because of their trust in what they get from you or me. It is, I have a wealth of experience and love to share with people who are deserving, because that's how I got it. It was shared with me. I didn't I didn't get it in a book. It didn't fall out the sky. People sitting down, taking their time to say, "You're worth investing in," and here's what I
Yeah.
know, that I want to teach you. So I, the, definitely see the direction, but I'm limited in some things that I would love to be able to help people with in reentry. But as far as growth and setting one up for desiring growth long term and pursuing it, I hope I can inspire people. If my story can't, we're all in trouble.
Yeah, I think that that's a really good point. It's like the story of resiliency, the story of growth, the story of self-preservation, and the story of, I think, unconditional like love and positive regard for others is really that story, exactly what you're talking about. And what ways, I guess I would ask you, what ways are you utilizing that story to help other people?
I am One way is I'm developing the ability to tell my story myself.
Hmm.
After incarceration, I suffered so long, or I continued to suffer by not having the tools to express myself, to communicate with you. And we take it for granted,
Hmm.
but it is it's a process. The whole incarceration process is one that can teach you you have no voice. And while you're in there, day after day after day of grievance after grievance after grievance, and nobody listening, or you can start to think that you don't care. Now, how does that show up in your life? Let me give you a couple examples. I'm at an interview. You, the interviewer, you don't know what situation I've been in, or that I've just gotten out of prison. You may see things like my lack of eye contact, that is a sign of distrust or sketchiness generally.
Hmm.
In the real world, that, you know and other physical postures might be tactics for self-preservation. This might be the, not looking people in the eye is just the way that you do it in prison, where I came from at that age. So I had these impressed behaviors that were adapted, that didn't serve me in society. So yeah, it shows up. I feel like I'm getting away from your question here. Uh, Help me drift back to you.
Yeah, I guess I'll just hone it back in like this. In what ways do you feel like you're taking your lived experience, all the shit you've been through being in prison, the shit storm, the shit pile, the trauma, the dysfunction, the crap, and then this transformation that you've claimed to had this amazing transformation, whether it's the therapy, whether it's the things that you've done in your life, how are you paying those back to help other people?
Well, I'm investing them directly and individually with people who are incarcerated, who I see potential in, promising. So there are a lot of people who have, and you notice, who have the passion, the desire, sometimes the innocence, a
Mhm.
lot of different circumstances behind them, and just don't have uh, someone who they don't have a point person on the outside or an advocate who can help connect them with resources or help support them or
Mhm.
help research for them, all of that stuff. So each person who I advocate for, and this is for people who are incarcerated. uh, I do some stuff with at-risk youth as well, as far as volunteer speaking. I can tell you about that sometime. But what I'm currently engaged in is helping individuals who I see as seeds for changing prison culture. I'm helping them develop in whatever way that I can. For some people, well, I gave you the examples.
Mhm.
I, I'm pretty sure I've told you about Miscarrying Justice League, right? The women's
Yeah,
project.
you have.
Okay,
Share more. Share more, please.
sure. Just briefly, it is a project that I started with a woman who's wrongfully incarcerated. And on another show, I have to tell you about her stories. Entertaining to say the least. But what makes her special and what kind of validated the decision to work with her is when we connected, and it was clear that I was going to offer some part of my routine to assist her in whatever her project was, rather than focus on her own case, or rather than start with her own case, which most people would because she's innocent and like it's not any anyone could solve this case. It's
Uh-huh.
not. It was some militia. There was some shit in the game. Just to be honest with you, there was something in the mix. So rather than employ me or put me to work focusing on things I couldn't do, she got the support, or she had the idea to include all the women in her prison who wanted to be involved with this opportunity to use social media. Now, people in prison don't often get. You make it look easy, Stephen. But most people obviously don't have access to the internet. People don't have access to the library. And post COVID, there's no movement to the library, even if there's rarely movement to the library if there is one.
That's
So
right.
with this project, anybody in her prison who wants to post, to write, to report what they see, what's going on, to share their poetry, to reach out to family, everyone can do it by connecting through Tamara with me, and I, record and post their blog and manage it. And that's a big deal to them. There's a lot of people who've come to believe that people out here don't care,
Mhm.
and you know better than anyone the love, the change that we want to see. It's going to take people inside and outside to go ahead and begin to create that. And
That's right.
so I'm honored to serve in projects like that, in which I can use the little that I know to serve someone who's doing something great.
That's beautiful. So it sounds like what you're doing is you're helping them have a voice. You're providing a voice to people on the inside. And I know you're saying I make it look easy, and I don't make it look easy by any means. It's just because of the opportunities that have been afforded to me that I really try to do a good job with. And it's what 105 in the evening right now, right? And there's nothing easy about this. I think we have to mindfully and intentionally really work to change the narrative. And even if this conversation, every conversation matters, right? So I know we've had a podcast scheduled a couple of times just to get your narrative out there to share it. And what I want to share is this work is tedious. This work is, you have to keep going after it, because if we don't show consistency with it, there's not an anomaly here. It's not a UFO that flew by that we saw for our first time. What it is, it's the truth. I call it the Bigfoot effect. In 1967 or 57, when they filmed Bigfoot for the first time, there was nobody believed in Bigfoot. Now they study Bigfoot seriously, they study Bigfoot in the school that I'm at. They study it in other colleges. It's called cryptozoology. People never would have thought that a million years ago. And now people talk about Bigfoot. There's signs in California where you have to watch out for Sasquatch because you might. This is a true story. This isn't And I'm not even trying to be funny here. This is a real deal thing. People really see and believe in Sasquatch, and I might believe in Sasquatch too. But we are the Sasquatch. And what I'm trying to say is there's people that say that's not real. People can't get out of prison and be successful. And it's called the Bigfoot effect. I really believe it. We have coined something called the Bigfoot effect here because people are saying that's not real. Person can't get out of prison. It's just like UFOs. They're not real. And now the United States government has a task force that they're about to they have groups of people assembled right now. They're about to put information out about UFOs and what they really have. But we didn't believe that. It's like Galileo. Galileo said the Earth isn't the center of the universe or whatever, and they locked him up in a house for over a year. So point being is this. There's a new trend and a new change coming, and that new trend and that new change that's coming is the fact that you're out of prison. Kyle Robinson is out of prison right now. He's helping other people. He's successful. He has his struggles. He has challenges and tribulations, but he's not coming back to prison. He's not creating another crime. He's not hurting anybody. He's a regular dude out there in society. And I think that's what we need to prove, don't you?
Yes, I humbly agree.
Yeah.
Couldn't say it better myself.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not magic. I'm not exceptional.
And what do you mean by that? I think we're all exceptional. Every single one of us is exceptional. I think every single one of us, I really believe this with my full heart of hearts. I believe every single one of us on this earth and this planet is exceptional. Don't you?
I believe
in some ways.
I think so. I do. I fear that we don't all get to show it. I fear that we're not always able to realize it for ourselves, but I think it's definitely there. And the tragedy is when it goes to waste, when we don't get to experience it, because literally everybody can touch it, everybody can have it, and it's like walking through a time portal when I got out, and just two worlds that are hard to reconcile. And if people just knew the capacity, the potential of most people who are incarcerated, then I think that we would approach it so differently, and it would be a productive system.
And tell me a little bit more. What do you mean by that?
Meaning, if people don't think of me as the exception, and they realize that there are people like yourself, people like Leo, so many people who are embarrassingly more accomplished than me, but people who I look at as mentors, who inspire me, people who I think about before I go near a situation that could ever land me back in jail. Mm-hmm. You know, there's so much there to free, and I humbly believe that change of attitude is what's going to be necessary. I live the way I live because I want to stay out.
That's right.
It should, tip people off to the idea that, people can change. My record is a lot worse, I would think, with the 12 armed robberies than a lot of people in there. There's a lot of people who've done way less and ended up with more time. And sometimes people need a second chance. We need to consider when second chances are appropriate, and when parole opportunities for people to reclaim their lives make sense, and we need to proactively look for them. And I don't think it's hard to do. Yeah, I don't think it'll be hard to do as people start to see these as a norm.
Absolutely and positively, I completely agree with you. Kyle, we're going to be right back. We have to have a word from our sponsor real quick, and we'll be back here momentarily. Thank you, okay?
In a nation where over 2.3 million individuals are confined within the walls of our criminal justice system, the stark reality is that an alarming 76% of those released find themselves back within these very confines. This cycle of recidivism is a revolving door of suffering, straining communities, and depleting resources. A comprehensive reentry approach is the missing link in this chain. The Awakening Reentry Training is that link. This groundbreaking initiative is designed to equip families and reentry organizations with the tools they need to guide individuals on their journey of reintegration into society. The Awakening Reentry Training stands out not just for its expertise, but for the lived experiences of those at its helm. These are individuals who have navigated the labyrinth of reentry themselves. They bring to the table a unique perspective and understanding that drives the authenticity and efficacy of the training. The Awakening Reentry Training is no ordinary program. It is a personalized approach to reentry education. It recognizes that each reentry journey is unique and tailors strategies to fit individual circumstances. Its comprehensive curriculum covers everything from legal landscape to mental health concerns, ensuring that no stone is left unturned. But Awakening is more than just a training program. It is a platform for ongoing support, fostering continued growth and empowerment beyond the training period. It emphasizes the importance of community integration and provides guidance on how to foster positive connections and support networks. The Awakening Reentry Training is a beacon of hope in a landscape marred by recidivism. It is a testament to the power of transformation and redemption. But this transformative initiative needs your support. Be part of the solution. Support the Awakening Reentry Training. Because together, we can break the chains of recidivism and build a more inclusive, understanding society. Your involvement can make a profound difference. So embrace the awakening. Be the change.
Welcome back, Kyle. It's good to see you, buddy, and thank you for that short little break. You know, I was just thinking when we went on break for a second there, I was just thinking about the changes that we do make in our lives and how we're not welcomed home and how we're not held as a human being. So we go through this experience of incarceration. It's traumatizing within itself. We're away from our families. We're away from our friends for years. I just had a meal with my brother and my mom tonight, by the way. The Maine State Prison gave us a holiday meal. So my mom, my nephew, and my brother came up. We sat down. We ate. 5-hour visit. Amazing. Warden was here. The commissioner was here. All the big, higher ups were here. Took the time to do that for us, which is just fascinating. But I just want to say this. They're seeing our worth in humanity. The challenge is, I think we leave and we're not held. Did you feel held when you went home?
Absolutely not. I was on total, dude. So I've been trying to give you the light version of it, and I know we're short on time. When I got out, I didn't even know I was getting out that day. I didn't know my time, how my time was calculated. When I got out, I got my bag. I go straight to the wrong place, straight back where I came from. I hadn't been in the house 10 minutes. I hadn't even processed. Mind you, I've gotten out and I had to take this long walk up, anywhere to find a payphone to get someone to come get me. Get home, think I'm about to sit down and ground. I probably didn't know what that was, but I thought I was going to shut my eyes in about 3 minutes max for us sitting on the couch. Boom, 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 boom. Open up. Oh, man, my heart jumped out of my chest. This
Of course
was
you did.
now, fortunately, they weren't looking for me. They were looking for someone else who lived there. The house had been on cops. Like it's got that. It's that type of house. I never knew. I never noticed until recently, reflecting back on how that reentry days went. I was experiencing PTSD, but suffering the trauma or displaying the signs of PTSD. And they didn't even that they had become so normalized that situations like that scare the hell out of you, or are supposed to scare the hell out of you, just don't anymore.
Hmm.
It's uh, I had lost the healthy fear, even, or just the ability to regulate or respond to emotions. And again, as you brought out, that came when someone did break that barrier with me to say, uh, uh, to explain to me. This is after the relationship where I began to recognize I was worthy of love, and I'm starting to get this therapeutic self insight now. And they would point out things to me that they observed, because it was a very wise and observant gentleman. And in fact, they spotted some of my they suggested or asked about some of my traumas with the type of detail that made me feel like, wow, this person knows me. That's how much I was wearing it on my sleeve and not letting anything go. But once they begin to model it for me and say things like, Stephen or Kyle, Stephen, you're right. You know, your grievances matter. What did you say yesterday on or the other day on your podcast with the gentleman who basically said, well, our tradition is to dismiss people's traumas, saying, well, my traumas weren't responded to, so yours shouldn't matter to me.
That's
That
right.
in that cycle, it took someone to point it out and to say to me that, no, uh, your grievances are worthy. You were a child, or you couldn't protect yourself. It took someone to say those things for me to accept them and to begin to feel some relief, and to think sensibly, reflect sensibly about my own experience.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And what a good conversation. I mean, I listened. I just want to say this. I'm not going to mention the podcast, and I don't want you to mention it either, please. But I was just listening to another prison podcast, and it's not nobody that's part of our awakening. And it's almost like they're glamorizing war stories and glamorizing like the chaos and how dysfunctional things are. And we're sitting here having a in-depth conversation about kindness, love, redemption, healing, and it just fascinates. I guess I'm plugging my own podcast, but at the same
It's
time, like
real though.
really truly reflecting on like, goodness gracious, I can't believe that other people aren't having these conversations really about in-depth healing. And even the conversation with Don Cabarello the other night, that was powerful, right? That was a powerful, powerful conversation. And I think that conversation with him, it just speaks to the fact that we live in a society that there's so much trauma, and we dismiss everybody else's trauma because we don't feel like we were heard. And it's got to stop somewhere, exactly what you're saying. So what's the solution, Kyle?
Well, people like yourself who have this insight have to put it into practice, and you have to do it. You kind of have to lead the way. And I can't overstate, as I'm sure you know, just what a challenge that is from prison, which is why I want to be here to ask, how can I help? Where can I support? What can I do? Tell me what to do, because I recognize that I learned these things somewhat through luck, and a self-education process of seeking mentors and whatnot. But you actually could clinically break the stuff down to me if you wanted to, and yeah, so you have to lead the way, and people out here have to find people that are trustworthy, that can be trusted with it, like yourself, and join in supporting, show up at things like the Awakening Exchange, be another person in the chair, but when you get there, interact. Do the well. I know your structure kind of calls for the interaction and the growth. It's well put together structure, but there are ways that we can show up just by showing up.
That's right.
Yeah.
I like that. There's ways that we can show up just by showing up. And what's important about that is sometimes we just need somebody to show up for us, and we need to be there for somebody else when they need somebody to show up for them. And that's the awakening, transforming from the inside out. We have partnered with Reentry United. We have partnered with several people in this field that want to see people do better and be better. And I think what's so fascinating, I was just having a conversation with somebody I worked with 20 years ago, actually probably like 24, 25 years ago. And he's absolutely moved and fascinated by the work we're doing as well. This is somebody that comes from the world of business and banking, right? And it's interesting to hear his perspective about how he feels about the work that we're doing. Somebody that's never been in the system of mass incarceration, and he sees the value in it. And now, because of the work that we're doing, he wants to get involved and give back. So to me, that tells me we're doing the work. We're doing what we're supposed to be doing. And I ask you these questions, Kyle, because I'm always interested. How do I grow and how do I improve? What change are you really here to make?
I could talk for hours to answer that. If I had to choose just one thing, I would want people to, I want to play a part in the otherizing that we do of people, the distancing that we do of other people to keep them away. We do it with the word criminal. We do it with, take criminal, for example. It's a word that we feel like we probably can't do without. Criminal justice system. There are so many people that I saw from my own experience who behind that label, you just know don't belong in a cage. There are survivors of domestic violence, people that are neurodivergent or a neurodiverse community. There's innocent people. You got, like in my case, a child marching into an adult
right.
prison. That's crazy. When we can get over the otherizing of each other, then we can open ourselves up to one shared humanity.
So did I mishear you? You want to otherize people? You want to otherize people, right?
No. Let me clarify, please. I want to help break down the labels that are associated with returning citizens and people who are incarcerated, so that progress can be made. I want other people to do.
So the unotherizing of other people.
Exactly.
So that's a new nice nickname for you, Kyle, the unotherizer. I like that. That comes up nice and it looks nice and it kind of fits you.
It does. It's better than anything I've been called today. For the first time.
Well, yeah, we'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. We want to unotherize people, not otherize people, ladies and gentlemen. I'm interested to hear, you've had all these lived experiences. What strengths can you pull from those experiences that you have been through? What strengths or positive threads can you pull from those experiences to help you be, and what strengths have you pulled to help you become the person that you are today?
I get this from the actual answer to that is something that I get from being inspired by people who are in there, like yourself, doing great things. It makes it uncomfortable for me to not be utilizing these strengths. I give a prime example. Just a couple of nights ago, I was on my way to visit my friend here, and I'm on the bus. It's like my third or fourth time on the bus in this new city. I'm getting lost every trip, right? And there's an altercation or an argument that pops off on the bus, and I'm observing it as a bystander. And I won't go through all the details of the story, but it was something I got to talk to you about. Like, we might have to break this down. But the message that I got from it when I ended up intervening in the situation to de-escalate it was the speaking up. I have that right, I have that ability, I have that skill, and I earn it, I work for it. And there's no greater feeling than employing it on someone else's behalf to help them. That is that is a strength that I can repeat. Stepping up and disrupting negativity, disrupting inhumanity where it makes sense to do so. And I think we all have this ability. It takes the courage of doing it and getting over the fear. Oh God, I don't want to be on the news tonight. I don't like that. I don't want to be the guy who's just trying to help. It takes getting over that and recognizing these three
Mhm.
people are in a situation, much I'm sure I've been in one before, where you're arguing with strangers, things have escalated, no one's really hearing each other, and just you're not communicating for results effectively. And being I
That's
can
right. That's right.
I saw that and I employed, a skill that is just a part of me today, thanks to, other people helping me get it. That's an example of putting the tool to use. I've got people who are on the inside who I help them develop the craft of storytelling so that they can begin to tell their story in a way that is empowering, that advocates for them, as opposed to being stuck with the narrative that they come in with on paper. And the love and appreciation, the gratitude shown is more than I could ever uh, process. Truly,
It's amazing. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
thanks.
On
Thanks.
Yeah, and I just want to say to everybody, I'm gonna
I know we got
before
to
we
go.
end it. No, we don't have to go just this moment, but I do want to invite everybody to the Awakening Exchange on December
28.
28th. We have Aisha Braveboy, the state's attorney from Maryland. It is going to be an extraordinary event. Clip. Thank you.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Stephen Matthew Clark here, and I am so excited to announce to you the Awakening Exchange on December 28th, 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock Eastern Time. Be there. This is going to be an amazing event. The Honorable Aisha Braveboy, State's Attorney from Maryland, a woman who is making remarkable changes and working on remarkable changes for the system of mass incarceration in Maryland. She's going above and beyond, and she is a trailblazer in many different ways. Aisha Braveboy is following suit with what we're doing here in Maine. She is an incredible human being. She's excited to share with the Awakening family, and I am excited to interview her. What I want to share with each and every one of you, what's going to happen at this amazing exchange. What is going to occur, some of the things that will come up that you have seen come up. I want to let the cat out of the bag a little bit and share with you what we're doing. What makes me so excited about this exchange is when we come together, we operate by asking questions. We don't feel like we have all the answers. In fact, that's why we bring people together, so we can have a collective experience. And through the questions that we ask, things will be unlocked for you individually, relationally, and communal. And I think what is really, really, really important, you will notice some things right here. You will notice some things in your heart that you didn't know were there before. And that's the power of the exchange. That's the power of the Awakening Exchange. We want to bring people together to have an experience for answers to be unlocked collectively. I bet you're sitting there and you think you have all the answers, and that's okay. A lot of people do. But the reality is, when we work together and when we share experiences and when we have conversations, man, miracles happen. And that's what the Awakening is. It's an opportunity for miracles to happen. And we hope you're there on the 28th to experience some miracles with us, with the Honorable Aisha Braveboy, and we have some special guests I'm not going to tell you about just yet, but some guests that I think you'll be really excited to see. So thank you each and all. I wish you the very best, and I'm wishing you all a happy holiday, whatever that looks like for you. Many blessings, and remember, it's all about the gratitude that we hold, and it's all about forgiveness and letting go. Moreover, it's all about love, love, love. Thank you all. We look forward to seeing you at the Awakening Exchange on December 28th, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock Eastern Time. Be there or be square. Thank you. Bye-bye.
So we have the Awakening Exchange coming up on the 28th. I hope to see you there, Mr. Kyle. It will be a gift and a blessing. I just want to say thank you for your time this evening. I'd like to maybe bring you on again in the future. We can talk more in detail about some of these topics, some of these issues. I really appreciate your mindset, the person that you've become, and the person you've always been. So it's really good to be friends with you. I'm really grateful for your support and your kindness on the outside. Any closing words that you'd like the audience to hear?
Be there on the 28th at the Awakening Exchange. That's all. If they get there, they'll get everything they need.
All right. That's amazing.
Thank you as well, my friend. I'm truly honored to be here on your project, and any way that I can support or help along the way, please include me, and I will do my best.
Yeah, absolutely and positively. Like Eminem said, I'm not afraid to take a stand. Everybody. Yeah, and that's what we need to do. We need to just take a stand. We need to do this work together, and we need to do it with love and dignity and respect for one another. Kyle, much love. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Peace.